Hello and welcome to Movies for Dumb Guys. I'm your dumb guy host, Joe Johnson. And with me, as usual, is Ryan Sharp.
You know what I call these? Fun coupons.
Fine, I'll ask you about that later. And Tim Williams.
I like to look at the naked ladies.
Oh, me too.
Did you get the right theme this week? I think you're talking about something
Oh,
else.
maybe. Oops.
Last weekend, I finally got around to seeing a movie called Stan and Ollie, which is about the last phase of the career of Laurel and Hardy. Their movie career had pretty much come to an end, and they traveled over to England to do a tour, like a personal appearance tour, and to try and get funding for a movie. They were going to do a spoof of Robin Hood, and it's kind of a sad movie. It went into very limited release at the end of 2018, and was, as far as I know, it wasn't playing in the Detroit area anywhere. So it finally went into wide release last weekend. I went out to see it and really liked the movie a lot. It's kind of sad. It's kind of depressing because it is at the tail end of their career and people have kind of forgotten about them. But the performances from Steve Coogan and John C. Riley are just remarkable, absolutely remarkable. Let me play a little clip from the trailer of Stan and Ollie.
That's all in the past.
You're not still carrying that around, are you? Because I went ahead and did a picture with someone else 16 years ago.
You and Harry are just going to be great together. Couldn't sleep for days when they told me what you did.
And I couldn't sleep when I did it.
You betrayed me. Betrayed our friendship. I loved us.
You loved Laurel and Hardy, but you never loved me. The doctors told me I can't continue with the tour. My heart won't take it. The show must go on.
That was pure magic. It's brilliant.
I'll miss us when we're gone. So will you.
The performances were so authentic. I'm really stunned that neither one of these actors got nominated for an Oscar. They were really incredible. The makeup appliances on John C. Riley to make him look like Oliver Hardy were incredible. I mean, I felt like I was really watching Oliver Hardy on screen. It was really remarkable, really entertaining film. And do you guys have any interest in seeing this movie?
No, I do not.
All right, so Tim, you plan on seeing this movie? Are you a Laurel and Hardy fan?
What I was gonna say was we talked about this a little bit before the show. Saturday mornings when I was growing up, or actually it was Sunday mornings, they would show different black and white old TV shows. So but they were kind of like in a rotation. So Ryan said that he would be upset when they would show Laurel and Hardy, but that was probably a different time period. It was before that. But they would show, but the only one that I would get upset about was the Bowery Boys.
Yeah, I
Like,
don't remember ever watching them.
no, like Laurel and Hardy, I would watch. Little Rascals, I would watch. Three Stooges, I would watch.
Abbott and Costello.
Abbott and Costello, I would watch. Yeah,
Yeah.
the only one that bothered me was the Bowery Boys. So yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen any Laurel and Hardy stuff, but I like to watch those guys. So yeah, I will probably watch it. I'm not gonna go out of my way to go to the theater to see it, but I'll probably check it out on Redbox or something like that.
Well, after seeing Stan and Ollie, I pulled out a DVD that I have that has several Laurel and Hardy movies on them, and I was surprised at how hard I was laughing. Like I was laughing hard at Sons of the Desert, where they lie to their wives and go to a convention and they get busted. The Music Box, where they have to deliver the piano up the flight of stairs, is a classic. And you have to give credit to these guys. They did the comedy team thing
Yes.
in movies before everybody else.
That's what I was gonna say.
Marx
I mean,
Brothers
they were really
came later.
groundbreaking.
Yeah. Marx Brothers came later. Three Stooges came later. Hope and Crosby, all of them came later after Stan and Ollie, who were paired together specifically just for the movies by Hal Roach.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. I find the guys hilarious. I was really looking forward to seeing Stan and Ollie, and I really liked the movie a lot. My only gripe is that it was just such a downer, so sad. But
See, I know nothing. Honestly, I know nothing about their story at all.
Yeah.
I just know that I used to watch them Sunday mornings when I was a kid when they would come on.
So having seen Stan and Ollie, that inspired me to come up with this week's topic for our podcast, and that is biopics. Movies about real-life individuals, historical figures, actors, musicians, that sort of thing. And so that's going to be the theme of today's podcast. Now, having said that, I'm going to do my top 5.
Biohazard?
Biopics. Maybe
Biodome?
some of your movies are biohazard.
Biodome.
I don't think that's
Oh,
based. That might be based on a true story.
it's coming true.
Now I'm going to do my top 5. Then we'll go around the table, and then if there's time, get back to my bottom 5. Plus, I have an honorable mention at the very bottom. So starting off, my favorite movie, and again, let me say this because this always seems to get Ryan upset. These are my favorite movies, not necessarily best movies ever made, not worst movies. My personal favorite movies, and I actually kind of
Garbage.
I struggled to come up with 10 biopic movies. This is
What?
not a genre
Are you
that
kidding me?
occupies a lot of space on my DVD
Oh
shelf.
my God. I was like going, man, how am I going to whittle this down?
I struggled to come up with 10. I eventually came up with 10. Number 1 on my list.
They say every town has a story. Tombstone has a legend.
Who is he?
That's Wyatt Earp. Made a name for himself as a peace officer.
I heard of you.
I'm retired.
You must be Doc Holliday. You retired too?
Not me. I'm in my prime.
None of your problem, Doc. You don't have to mix up in this.
That is a hell of a thing for you to say to me.
In a battle
The last charge of Wyatt Earp and his immortals.
at the OK Corral,
Oh, my God.
the West would never forget.
You tell him I'm coming, and hell's coming with me!
Tombstone, 1993. Incredible performances by Kurt Russell as Wyatt Earp, Val Kilmer as Doc Holliday, Sam Elliott as Virgil Earp, and Bill Paxton as Morgan Earp. Most historians say this is the most accurate account of events surrounding the OK Corral gunfight out of all the movies that tried to depict that particular moment in time. Wyatt Earp is one of my favorite historical characters of all time. He's just such a badass in real life and lived to a ripe old age where he got to watch them make TV shows and movies about his life. He would visit the sets. I just love the cast, love this movie, love the story, love everything about Tombstone. I don't think it won any awards. I don't think it was even nominated for any Oscars or anything, but this is one of my all-time favorite movies. Pretty sure. I think Val Kilmer may have won or was nominated for like Golden Globes, but I don't think there were any Oscar nominations. I might have to double check that, but one of my all-time favorite movies, one of my favorite Westerns, and my favorite biopic depicting real-life historical characters. Ryan, your thoughts on Tombstone?
Well, I'm your Huckleberry.
I'm glad to hear that.
No, I absolutely love this film. It's iconic to me. It's got so many good quotes. It was great acting. I'm really surprised that it wasn't nominated if that is indeed true.
Yeah.
Because I could have seen it. I don't know what year. What year did it come out?
93.
93. So I don't know what won that year, but I would, without researching, I'd put it up against anything that came out that year.
Wyatt Earp with Kevin Costner
screw that.
won that year.
I tried watching
Just
that
kidding.
version, and it's so slow and so boring compared to
Wyatt
Tombstone.
Earp? Really? Is that true?
I don't think so. I don't
Yeah.
think so.
No, we'll.
I don't think that came out the same year as Tombstone.
No, but it was around the same time.
But I
I
think
remember, but
didn't Wyatt Earp get nominated for something though?
might have. Yeah, Kevin Costner, he's the golden boy when it comes to the Oscars. By the way, I had the
that Waterworld. Ooh, that one swept.
had the pleasure of meeting Val Kilmer a year or so ago when he was at the Motor City Comic Con. But yeah, Tim, your thoughts on Tombstone?
I am not a big Western guy, Western movie guy. I saw it maybe one time, and
Dealing with fools
I
and
thought it
trolls.
I thought it was fine, but I have really nothing else to say about it.
I love it. I love how they depict all the events that led up to the OK Corral and then everything that happened after the OK Corral, where Wyatt Earp just says, okay, enough is enough, and starts hunting down the cowboys one by one and taking them out. And it's just, to me, it's such a great movie moment. All right. That's number one on my list, Tombstone. Number two.
Damn, I'm so surprised.
Number two on my list came out in 2012.
It's either the amendment or this Confederate peace. You cannot have both.
How many hundreds of thousands have died during your administration?
Congress must never declare equal those whom God created unequal.
Leave the Constitution alone.
We are stepped out upon the world stage now, with the fate of human dignity in our hands. Blood's been spilled to afford us this moment now.
Abraham Lincoln has asked us to work with him to accomplish the death of slavery.
No one's ever been loved so much by the people. Don't waste that power.
This fight is for the United States of America.
Abraham Lincoln, directed by Steven Spielberg, starring Daniel Day-Lewis as Lincoln, Sally Field as Mary Todd. Nominated for Best Picture, lost to Argo, which I think is a travesty. I still can't believe Argo beat out Lincoln, even though Daniel Day-Lewis did win Best Actor. When I sat in the theater, I watched this movie, I felt like I was time traveling. I thought Daniel Day-Lewis was amazing as Abraham Lincoln. Like, there's no recordings of Abraham Lincoln. There's only photos, so you have to use your imagination of what he might have sounded like and moved like. And I thought Daniel Day-Lewis did an amazing job of bringing Lincoln to life. Love this movie. Second favorite biography movie of all time. Ryan, your thoughts on Lincoln?
Never saw it.
Wow. Really? That
Yeah.
surprises me.
Never saw it.
Tim?
My favorite part was when he was killing those vampires.
Here we go. Here we
okay.
go.
Let me say, I actually was a fan. I mean, from what I know about Abraham Lincoln, I mean, I remember, I think I wrote reports about him when I was a kid and stuff, and he was a wrestler.
He was Hall of Famer.
Yeah. So I was interested in him for whatever reason.
Wait.
This is another one that I've never seen.
Wait.
I've never seen.
Lincoln was a wrestler?
Yeah,
Yes.
he's in the Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Like
Yeah.
Abraham Lincoln.
Abraham
Yes.
Lincoln.
Freed the slaves.
Yeah.
Is a
and
wrestler.
Wrestled. Yeah.
Yes.
He was a grappler.
Abe the Emancipator Lincoln.
That's shocking.
Was that his wrestling name?
Mhm.
And in this corner,
Exactly.
the great
The
emancipator.
Fighting for your freedom.
Abe Lincoln.
That's right. Exactly.
Full score.
Oh, let's get ready to free the slaves.
7 suplexes ago.
Where's my water? Is it over here? Hand me
right.
my water.
It is.
So
I thought
never
you were
saw
still
it?
So no, I have never seen Lincoln.
Wow, man, that really surprised me.
It was on my list. I just never
Mine
like it.
too. There's like a lot of them that are, and just for whatever reason, just
Oh,
I
Too
never
busy
get, I never
watching-
get around to seeing.
Yeah, I was too busy watching like Piranha
You need to watch.
or something.
that's historically accurate. All right, then moving on to number 3. Initially, when I was compiling this list, this didn't jump into my head as a biopic until I started reading up about it and realized that, yes, indeed, this is based on the experiences of a real person.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster. If we wanted something, we just took it, and you didn't even think about it. To us, it was better than Citibank. For most of the guys, killings got to be accepted. Murder was the only way that everybody stayed in line.
What are we gonna do with him? We can't just dump him on the street.
Don't worry. I know a place up safe. They'll never find him.
You got out of line, you got whacked. Everybody knew the rules.
Goodfellas came out in 1990, starring Ray Liotta as Henry Hill, who is the real-life person in this movie. Now, some of the surrounding cast members, some of the characters, they tweaked names and stuff. I don't know if it's because they didn't get permission or what the deal is. So they
probably
tweaked
didn't want to
names.
get whacked.
Right, exactly. So they're like Joe Pesci. His character's name was Tommy DeVito. His character was based on Tommy Two Guns DeSimone in real life. The whole thing is based on
Why
a
did
book.
you just sound like John Travolta? Welcome back, Cotter.
What? It's based on a book called Wise Guy: Life in the Mafia Family. Nominated for Best Picture. But speaking of Kevin Costner, lost to Dances with Wolves again.
Dancing with Wolves.
I can't believe Goodfellas lost to Dances with Wolves. I think that's a travesty. Joe Pesci did win Best Supporting Actor that year, though. Boy, this movie, when I saw it for the first time, I was like shaking afterward. Joe Pesci's character was so batshit crazy, man. It was just absolutely nuts what he did. And from what I heard, the real guy that he's based on was just like that. Great movie. One of the best movies I think ever made. Got to mention Martin Scorsese. I think this is his masterpiece, one of his masterpieces, but it's just absolutely great. It's one of the greatest movies ever made. That's right. Ryan, your thoughts on Goodfellas?
Never saw it. I'm kidding. Of course. I'm
Come
kidding.
Over this table.
It is. You're what?
I'm gonna jump over this table.
Oh, that's not what you said.
Yes, it was. You heard wrong. I love me some Shaft.
So Goodfellas to me is one of my favorite movies. It is very high on my list. I didn't rank these necessarily. I got like a top half and a bottom half for sure. But Goodfellas is probably up there, 1 or 2 or 3 for me for sure. I saw it as a younger child, maybe early teens or something like that. I wanted to be a gangster. I walked around, talking like I was from New York. How many quotes, we walk around talking about, I'm funny how? I'm a clown?
Oh, yeah.
Like, it even got into mainstream where it's like the, Animaniacs and the Goodfeathers were doing it. And, it's just super, super iconic. And people hang the poster up in their living rooms.
Yeah.
It's like Scarface or Goodfellas. So,
yep.
I can't say enough about this movie. I can't believe it lost either.
Yeah, that's one of those Academy Awards when you go back and you rethink it and you go, oh, that was a travesty. I don't know what they were thinking. Tim, your thoughts on Goodfellas?
Yeah, I like this movie. It didn't make my top 10. It's just not something. Well, it's just not one that I thought about as a biopic.
What the hell was that?
I don't know. It was just. It just wasn't. It's just not something that I think about as a biopic. It's like a gangster movie. But,
well, like I said,
I know
initially I didn't make the connection
that rat
either.
Henry
but
Hill, but still.
I do got to say that there is a point in the movie where I can shut it off because I no longer really enjoy it.
Well, it gets to the point where it's more modern times when he's involved in all the drugs and stuff.
And that's when I'm like ready to, like I can shut it off right there.
Yeah.
He starts doing the making the marinara and the meatballs. Like I can shut it off right there.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, I guess that's one problem with Martin Scorsese movies is they could be edited down a little bit. I watched Casino fairly recently, and I'm like, man, you could take a good hour out of that movie, man.
Casino, that was based on real people too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, moving on to number 4.
I
remember seeing this movie on a date and
this
coming
is
away.
Really old movie.
It's been a while. Coming out of the theater thinking this just might be one of the greatest movies I've ever seen.
Go back to England and tell them there that Scotland's daughters and her sons are yours no more. We cannot defeat this army. We can. And we will. Would you be willing, for one chance, just one chance, to tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom?
Mel Gibson. Braveheart.
Man, one of the greatest speeches of all time. Braveheart, 1995, starring Mel Gibson as William Wallace. Now, I was doing some research on William Wallace. His exploits took place so long ago that there's not really detailed records of what he did. So A lot of the stories were handed down from generation to generation. So the movie took a few liberties. In the movie, the whole thing was kicked off when they murdered his wife, but there's no record of William Wallace ever having a wife. I guess people had seen him with like a young woman on his arm and assumed it was his wife, but her death had nothing to do with kicking off this rebellion. As a matter of fact, William Wallace came into the rebellion after it had already started and kind of joined already in progress. The big battle scene, instead of taking place in an open field where they just kind of fought hand-to-hand combat, it actually took place over a bridge. And the reason the English got defeated is because they were trying to cross this bridge, which bottlenecked the English army, and the Scots just beat the hell out of them because they were single file coming off this bridge. And the English assumed that William Wallace was going to play by the rules, and he was like, screw that, and wiped out this English army and went down in history. So for whatever reason, the movie didn't depict it like that. Maybe they just thought it would be more dramatic to have them going.
It's a movie.
Right. They're trying to make it more entertaining, but I'm like, that sounds pretty entertaining. So the movie won 5 Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Director, Mel Gibson. But I don't think Mel Gibson was even nominated for Best Actor, which shocks me because, like I said, that speech when he's got the face paint on is one of the great movie moments of all time, one of the greatest movie speeches of all time, and definitely one of the greatest biopics of all time. Ryan, do you concur?
I tell you what, if I'm like thinking about date movies, I'm thinking Braveheart.
Yeah.
Yeah, how did she enjoy that?
Yeah.
I think she liked it a lot too, and
okay.
yeah, I'm sure things went well that night.
I'm sure. It really puts him in the mood. Braveheart. All right. This is probably my number one.
Yeah.
I saw it, I think, 5 times in the theater. This is a long movie also, and I didn't care. I was all in. I still quote this movie all the time. There's a ton of quotes in it. It had humor. The battle scenes were amazing. When that sword went flying through the air and stuck in the ground and wavered back and forth, it sent chills down my spine. Like so many awesome things happened in this movie. And it will forever be one of my favorites.
Love that Scottish accent too. I don't know if the Scots think it's authentic or anything, but I thought that accent was great.
I loved you. Always have.
Always. Tim, your thoughts on Braveheart?
Yeah, it did not make my top 10 either.
That's something we'll have to remedy.
It didn't make your top 10? Wow.
No. And Ryan mentions it being long. I did not see it at the theater, but I remember renting it, and it was the 2 VHS tapes.
2 stack
together.
The double tape.
So, maybe it would be different if I had actually seen it at the movie. I mean, I liked it. I thought it was a great movie. It's nothing that I bought or I think probably even watched again. But, I did like it. But when I was compiling my list, I didn't. Well, I can't say that I didn't think about it because I did throw that out there to a certain Mr. Richie Rollins when he said that he didn't know any biopics.
True.
But anyway, good movie, but did not make my list.
Wow, that surprises me.
Wow.
And what's that? Play that again.
Wow.
Wow.
And number 5 on my list, I don't have a sound clip from it because all I can find was gunfire. But 1967, Bonnie and Clyde. Warren Beatty is Clyde Barrow. Faye Dunaway is Bonnie Parker. And believe it or not, this was Gene Wilder's first film. He was a part of a couple whose car gets hijacked by Bonnie and Clyde. And
what year was this?
This was 1967. Gene Wilder's first film appearance.
Oh, okay.
It was nominated for Best Picture, lost to In the Heat of the Night. The car that Bonnie and Clyde were shot up in was a stolen 1932 Ford V8. The real car, the actual car, is on display at Whiskey Pete's Casino in Nevada. Next time I'm on the West Coast, I'm going to head out there and check it out.
I just want to go to Whiskey Pete's.
Yeah, I want to see all the bullet holes and everything. Now, the movie
I don't care about that. I just want to go somewhere that's named Whiskey Pete's.
Hey, the car's here. Right. And the real car, the real movie car that they blew a bunch of holes in and killed the actors is located. I just found this out today at a place, a museum, a crime museum in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, called Alcatraz East. So I'm gonna have to make my way down to Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. But I love Bonnie and Clyde. Love the performances. Just all around so great. And the scene of them getting shot up at the very end. Spoiler alert. Again, one of the great movie moments of all time, even though it's based on an actual event. I remember audiences were like shocked and sickened at that, because at the time this movie came out, there were rules about showing guns firing and people getting hit with the bullet. Like they would show somebody pulling the trigger and then they would show somebody like falling down or whatever. But in this movie, it was very graphic and very disturbing. And this kind of
Rebels.
Yeah, it revolutionized filmmaking, because when you think about the movies that came out late 60s, early 70s, they really were like over the top violent movies, and Bonnie and Clyde kind of started it all.
Who was the director?
You had
Mel
to ask
Gibson.
me something.
Okay,
I
sorry.
don't know. No, I wasn't Warren Beatty. I'll have to look that up, but I'm not sure who the director was on this. But Ryan, you ever get around to seeing Bonnie and Clyde?
No.
Oh, one of the all-time great movies.
You said what year did it come out?
67.
Yeah, no. No, I didn't.
I was 1 when I saw this in theaters. Tim, Bonnie and
I
Clyde.
was on a teat.
If I did, I don't remember it.
Wow. That really surprises me, man. This is a great, great movie. All right, so that's my top 5. So we're going to go around the table now. Ryan, you said that, Braveheart was number 1?
Arthur Penn was the director, by the way.
Arthur Penn, okay.
Carl McGraw.
Not to be confused with Arthur Penn Hallow.
Baby. So Ryan, you said Braveheart, number 1. Goodfellas right up there.
Yes.
What else you got
Yes.
in
Yes,
your
yes.
top 5?
Yes. So again, I didn't put these in any specific order because a lot of them are, you ask me tomorrow, it could change, because my list is a whole bunch of great movies, and so I'm really surprised that you had a hard time coming up with these. I'm gonna go with number 3 on my list is a phenomenal acting performance in which the actor embodied the character, and that is Man on the Moon with Jim Carrey.
Oh, okay.
I thought that he was Andy Kaufman. The Andy Kaufman story is so weird and original. So it was interesting to see the story and to see the back history. I didn't know much about the guy. I had heard about the Mighty Mouse thing, and I had obviously known him from Taxi, but I didn't know.
Thank you very much.
I didn't know, all the shenanigans that he pulled and how odd and weird he really was, and how he kind of just sat back and laughed at everybody because it was a huge joke, but only he was in on the joke. So,
No, him and Babs Muda.
Yeah,
that's right.
We're both in on it.
Yeah, no,
And Tony Clifton.
Tony Clifton, yeah. No, I remember watching. I remember seeing him on Saturday Night Live when he did his Elvis and he did the Mighty Mouse thing, and I thought that was hysterical. But as I got older, the stunts that he would pull, the stuff with David Letterman and everything, I didn't know what was real, what was fake, and I thought this guy's absolutely insane. And so when the movie came out, I really didn't have much of an interest in seeing it, only because I was not a fan of Andy Kaufman. I just thought he was too out there for me. I did watch the movie. I did think Jim Carrey was amazing, how he channeled Andy Kaufman. It was a spectacular performance, but I'm just not a fan of the movie because I just don't get Andy Kaufman.
I like the movie. I also, because I like the movie, there's also a really great documentary on Netflix about Jim Carrey becoming the man.
All right.
I have not watched that yet.
I highly recommend it, especially if you like this movie as much as I do, which it appears that you kind of do.
Yeah.
Definitely worth checking out.
It's
All right.
the luck of the draw there.
Right.
Man in the Moon. All right.
All right. My next one, not too long ago, this came out. It's another kind of long movie. I think it set some sort of record for the F-bomb, and that's Wolf of Wall Street.
Now, I wasn't aware this was based on actual characters.
Yes.
Enlighten us.
Yeah, I've never seen this.
It's based on an actual guy, Jordan. whatever his last name is.
What's the time period on this? 80s, 90s?
I think it was right when the stock market crashed. That happened. Like, so, have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen
You
it.
haven't seen it
I've
either?
never seen it. No.
What is the matter with like? Hang on,
That was another one like Lincoln that was on my list, and I just never got around to seeing it.
What is your major malfunction, numbnuts?
This is ridiculous. This movie is phenomenal. It's got Leonardo. It's got Jonah Hill.
It's got everything.
It's got drugs. It's got naked Margot Robbie. It's got like, it's amazing. Jordan. Oh man, I'm really drawing a blank on his last name.
Catalano.
No. So Leo, he's a young guy. He's trying to make money. He wants to be in the stock market. So he goes, he gets his thing. He starts with this company, and then the stock market crashes, and then everybody gets laid off. And then so he ends up selling penny stocks, and he like is phenomenal at it. And so he starts making a lot of money. And then he runs into Jonah Hill, who is like, hey, you're in my apartment, but I see you drive this really nice car. Like, how much you make a year? And he like tells him, and he's like, you show me a check right now for that. I quit my job. I work for you. And so he showed him a check, and boom, this guy's working for him. So then he's like, I can teach anybody how to sell. And what we're going to do is we're going to pitch these penny stocks to people, or we're going to pitch like a blue stock and then nail them on these penny stocks because they make 50% commission. And so it's like his rise from doing that to running a small garage to do a 5-person operation to becoming a mogul, and where they call it the Wolf of Wall Street, where I think Time Magazine did a thing was like you steal from the rich and feed yourself or something like feed yourself, something like that. And then he leaves his wife and he goes with the Duchess, which is Margot Robbie, and it's just an amazing performance by Leo, an amazing roller coaster ride. This guy really lived a crazy life. Jordan Belfort, that's his name. I highly recommend. They say the F-bomb like every other word. They do so many drugs. It's funny. It's definitely like New York. And that's where my quote came from. There was a FBI agent, I believe it is, investigating him, and he like kind of tried to soft bribe him, a little bit, and the guy was like not having any part of it, and like left. And as he's leaving, he pulls out this wad of money and he starts like making it rain. He's like, you know what I call these? And they're $100 bills. He's like, I call these fun coupons. So yeah, great movie. Go check it out.
All right. Next.
Oh yeah, you guys got nothing to say.
Nothing on that one.
Nothing on that one. Well, here's another one that you guys probably will have nothing to say. And that is Straight Outta Compton.
Okay.
You're right.
Anybody?
Nothing.
Anybody?
It's all pops and buzzes over
Another
there.
one that was on my list and I never saw. Sorry.
Seriously.
Yeah,
You're an inspiration for birth control.
This is a great movie.
I've heard great things. My nephew said it was probably the greatest movie he'd ever seen at that point. It's not my thing.
What's not your thing, Joe?
Go
ahead. What's not your thing? Good acting?
History?
I had mentioned
I
it.
don't want to get upset watching a movie.
I mentioned it
don't like getting
before.
upset.
I liked it better the first time when it was called CB4.
You watched Braveheart, and you don't want to get upset by the real like. Give me a.
It's not my thing. The music isn't my thing.
February is going to be a long month.
I haven't liked rap music since Double Dutch Bus came out in the 80s.
What? How old are you?
86.
I'm an old man. I hate everything but Matlock. Who is that now?
Straight Outta Compton, great movie, great performances. They cast it so perfectly. Most people, maybe not this room, but most people know the story.
Oh, I know the story.
Yeah.
I saw it in CB4.
I knew you were gonna. I knew it was coming. But yeah, it's definitely worth the watch. It was a good movie, even if you don't like rap. It wasn't like they were just playing the music and it was a concert. It was like an actual movie that told a story, and you see how it started and where it finished, and it's it's part of history.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Great freaking movie, Johnson.
Yeah, I can't promise you I'm going to run out and rent that one. Sorry.
I'll probably watch it at some point.
You should.
Eventually.
I mean, I had the original album.
Yeah.
I think their first couple.
I mean, again, even if you don't like the music, it's not focused on the music necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pass. What else you got there, Ryan?
Oh, that was my 5.
All right, that's your top 5?
Well,
All right.
I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah.
Tim.
Okay.
Bring it.
Yeah. All right.
It's already been brought in.
My number 1 is a movie about a movie director, and it is Ed Wood.
All right.
Even though they probably take some liberties in it, somewhat. I mean, I've never read that they do. I mean, I think it's somewhat accurate. I mean, I think it's actually pretty accurate. I think it's just the way that they act it, because they kind of act like like they acted in the older movies.
Right.
So, I just, like Tim Burton, I like a lot of his stuff. I'm not crazy about a lot of his stuff. I think he works better in black and white. But this, to me, is easily Tim Burton's best movie that he's done. Johnny Depp plays Ed Wood. If anybody doesn't know, he was a B movie director responsible for what some people consider some of the worst movies ever made,
including Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Yes.
I sat down with my nephew and watched that one time when he was pretty young, and we laughed our butts off.
Exactly.
Scenes would go from day to night, and carpets or grass moves for underfoot as if it was a rug.
Yeah.
Cardboard sets. Yeah, it's pretty damn funny.
Yeah. I don't know if I would consider him the worst director of all time, but because his movies are actually quite watchable, honestly. There's some directors that movies like Yui Boll. I think his movies are like worse than Ed Wood's, but
I saw the Ed Wood years ago. I just watched it one time. I really enjoyed it. It got a little odd for me when he started dressing up in fluffy sweaters and stuff. That was a little weird, but
yeah, I mean, but that was legitimate.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
he wanted to, and I think that is like the theme, kind of like the theme that Tim Burton wanted to get across, that this group of like ragtag guys that he assembled, and they didn't even really care that he was dressing up like a woman and directing the movies.
Yeah.
What's his name? Martin Landau won Best Supporting Actor.
Yeah, for playing
Bela Lugosi
Yeah,
in this movie. He did fantastic. I was torn because I kind of wanted Samuel L. Jackson to win from Pulp Fiction, but there's no denying that Martin Landau's performance was fantastic as well.
And then in Plan 9 from Outer Space, didn't Bela Lugosi like die early into filming, and so they replaced him with a guy who just covered his face with the cape all the rest of the movie and just kind of walked around slowly.
Yeah. And that part's hilarious too, because he really didn't look like him, but in the movie, Johnny Depp's character of Ed Wood is like, it is so uncanny.
Ryan, I can tell by your reaction you've never seen Ed Wood.
Nope.
All right,
Never
moving
seen Ed
on.
Wood, eh?
I actually tried to watch it one time, maybe twice, and got distracted or something like that. So it's not that I don't want to see it. I just never got around to it.
All right, my number 2 is, I can pretty much guarantee that neither of you guys have seen this, but it is about a excuse me, comic book creator, and basically he just made a comic book about his life in Cleveland or Cincinnati. I don't remember. I think it was Cleveland. Harvey Picar in the movie is called American Splendor. He is played by Paul Giamatti in the movie, but Harvey Picar is actually in the movie as well. He has since passed away, but yeah, it's really interesting, like how it even happened. Like he was talking to some guy and he was like saying like his life should just be a comic book, and so there's this long run of this comic book called American Splendor that is just his mundane life and what happens in his life. Well, I can't even say mundane, because I mean he did kind of lead an interesting life, and David Letterman used to have him on his show all the time. But it's actually good. If you guys have never seen it, Even if you're not familiar with Harvey Pekar, it's actually very interesting.
I remember when the movie came out. I don't know why I never got around to seeing it. I do think that Paul Giamatti is one of this generation's greatest actors. He is fantastic in everything he does. I just never got around to seeing it. Ryan, you ever see American Splendor?
Did not.
Okay.
All right. My number 3 is The Founder. The story about how Ray Kroc became involved with the McDonald brothers and kind of ended up taking it over, kind of rewrote history to where now he considers himself the founder of McDonald's. And a lot of people consider him the founder of McDonald's, really.
So we were this close to eating at Croc's, is what you're saying?
No, not really. You never saw this movie?
Never saw it. I know it's fairly
Really?
recent, right? Wasn't
Yeah, it was out last year or the year
Michael
before.
Keaton?
Yeah,
Was he
Michael
in it?
Keaton
Yeah,
played Ray Kroc. It's interesting. Unfortunately, the movie leaves out a lot of things that they definitely paint Ray Kroc as the bad guy, but there's a lot of things that the McDonald's brothers did to him in the beginning too that they left out of the movie. Where you're kind of like, if you know that afterwards or even before, you can kind of see why Ray Kroc did what he did. They really did screw him over in the beginning.
That's one thing a lot of these biopics have in common in historical movies is they always seem to take liberties to condense the story, try to make it more entertaining, more dramatic. And it is kind of frustrating when you read about it after the fact that things were left out and to add more drama. So all these movies are guilty of that.
Yeah. And I don't know why they left that part out. Only because the only reason that they left it out is because they wanted to paint Ray Kroc as this
Right.
evil genius or whatever, I think if people would have seen what the McDonald's brothers did to him in the beginning, then they'd probably have a different
Sympathetic view, yeah.
Yeah.
Ryan, you ever see this?
I did.
And?
I actually really like it a lot. That was a good pick. Good pick. Yeah, what a dick. Like everything that he did and like they were the original inventors were like, we want it this way. We don't want it to grow and franchise and do what he wanted to do, and he kind of forced them out, but they were kind of being difficult. So it's like, I kind of feel bad for them, but they're kind of being dicks too. And like,
Well, they left out a huge part. And one of the huge parts that they left out is when they sold him the franchise,
Mhm.
they had already sold that franchise to somebody else in the area. And they didn't tell him that. So he had to spend like a lot of money to buy that franchise from the other guy that had already bought it from him. And they didn't tell him that
Yeah.
before he built his first restaurant.
no, they
But-
both were like, both sides were jerks. Like,
Yeah.
But there's some cool digs back and forth too. And I thought it was really entertaining. I thought Keaton did a great job. And
He did.
And it's,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's definitely worth the watch.
I have a hard time sitting through movies where all of the characters are unlikable. And I don't know if
They're-
that's the case in this movie
No.
because I hadn't seen it. But
No, not
like
necessarily.
another biopic, I don't know if this is on any of your lists, but I sat in a theater to see that Steve Jobs movie, and I hated it. And and I didn't think it was a bad movie. I just thought Steve Jobs was such an awful person throughout this whole movie, and it was
Really?
painful to watch
I've never
that for
seen it.
90 minutes or 2 hours. Like, this is brutal to watch someone be so awful to his family and his co-founder and all that. It was just hard to watch.
No, I've never seen that one. So I don't
mean,
know.
he was an
But-
eccentric dude though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, the founder, they're all somewhat likable characters. I mean, they kind of portray Ray Kroc as the bad guy. I mean, they definitely portray him as the bad guy as it goes on. But you kind of root for him in the beginning because of what he's doing, and
Right.
his
And
vision,
what he accomplished, yeah.
of what
Yeah.
what McDonald's should be. So
Right.
anyway,
All right.
I'll move on to my number 4. And that is Walk the Line. That came out in 2005 about Johnny Cash. I know that a lot of that is not necessarily true that happened in the movie. But I really enjoyed this movie a lot.
I like it when it was called
I thought-
Dewey Cox.
Right.
You mean after the fact?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw Walk the Line. I enjoyed it. I question whether Joaquin Phoenix was correctly cast as Johnny Cash. I mean, he was okay. It seems like they could have gotten someone else to play Johnny Cash. Did
I thought he
Joaquin
did a good
Phoenix
job.
sing, or was he dubbed over by?
I'm pretty sure
another
he
singer?
sang.
Did he?
I'm pretty sure. He sang.
So I enjoyed the
I'd have
movie,
to look
and
that up, but I think that him and Reese Witherspoon both sang.
yeah, Reese won an Academy Award in that movie. And yeah, I enjoyed it. I just I don't know. There are a couple of things I may have tweaked about it, but it was all right. Ryan, you ever see Walk the Line?
I did. It didn't impress me much. I mean, they were. I didn't have a problem with the casting of Joaquin, but I thought they did a good job in their performances. But it just was okay for me. Okay.
Do you know off the
Just-
top of your
just
head
okay
like
for
what
me, dog.
what scenes what scenes were like inaccurate? Do you know off the top of your head like what liberties they took with the film?
I want to say like one of the biggest things in the movie that he didn't even really have a brother in real life or something.
Oh, about the wrong kid died and all that stuff
Yeah.
that they mocked in.
Yeah, I could be wrong on that, but it was like some pretty major things that they added to the movie.
Wow.
I remember looking it up after. And they
See,
were
I
like,
just,
"Oh,
I mean, I understand wanting to be more dramatic or whatever, but man, when you just make stuff up out of thin air, I'm like, why? Like Johnny Cash's life isn't amazing enough. You had to like fictionalize parts of it. To me, that's insane.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of it was accurate, but yeah, but they have to juice it up and make it more thematic
Right.
or cinematic or whatever. I mean, I guess I could see that. I mean, they did the same thing with Bohemian Rhapsody.
Right, exactly.
So,
Yeah.
So my number 5, and you know, I just like this movie. I don't necessarily like the person that it is about, and this is kind of like her version of it. But it is the movie that came out in 2017, I, Tanya, about Tanya Harding. And I do have to say, if her mother was really like she was in this movie, you almost feel bad for her.
Yeah.
Even if her mother was even like a quarter of the way that she was in this movie, you feel bad for her.
Yeah.
I mean, they do kind of present it in a different light. Yeah, I mean, they still make everybody around her like dimwits, you know, and the big plan and everything. that
Galooly.
Galooly and the other guy.
I don't remember his name.
Yeah, the henchman guy. I mean, especially that guy.
Yeah.
They really make him out to be adult.
See, this is another movie I never got around to seeing, and again, it was because I can't sit down and subject myself to people being awful through the entire movie. They're terrible, terrible, unlikable people.
But they're not necessarily. I
Really?
mean, they did stupid things, but well, I mean, they do kind of make Galooly out to be a jerk.
Do you now? Did the movie? Do you think Tanya was aware of this whole conspiracy?
Yes.
What is?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, she denies it, but I think I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that she.
Although
So crazy.
I've seen her on like that True TV. They did that. I don't remember what the show they used to do all the time. She's dumb.
Yeah.
I could totally see it. Like,
all
I could see Galooly being like, "We're gonna smack Nancy Kerrigan in the knee," and her be like, "Huh?"
all of
They'll
them,
never suspect me.
right? I mean, all of them in that camp are dumb.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know in real life, but they definitely make them look dumb in the movie. And actually, they hired a couple other guys to hit her in the knee. That he was not the hitter, but even those guys were dumb. Those guys were even dumber than the two that hired him.
You guys know where the attack took place, right?
Yeah, it's Kobo, right?
Was it
No,
Kobo or
it
was
was
it Joe?
Silverdome.
No, it was Joe Lewis. I thought.
Silverdome.
Was it Silverdome?
It was a Silverdome.
We're all over the place on this one.
No, it was not.
maybe
It had to be in Detroit. It was
Yeah.
either
It was in Detroit.
Kobo or Joe Lewis.
Yeah.
Probably Joe Lewis.
Whoop Joe Lewis's ass.
Yeah, you know, I remember, you know, watching this unfold on the news and thinking, Tanya can't possibly be involved. It's too obvious. And then it's like, guess what? She
Right.
was involved. It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So shocking that they thought they would get away with that. And
I know.
like I said, watching it unfold live on TV, you know, I didn't think a movie could do it justice. So I just kind of steered clear. Ryan, did you see I, Tanya?
I did. I actually really liked it. Excuse me. I thought the performances were really well done. I thought Margot Robbie really she nailed being Tanya Harding. Like she's an amazingly attractive woman, and she definitely trailer trashed it up. Like
I remember when
great-
I heard
great
that she was
performance.
cast, I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, I
'cause
thought that was odd, but
Margot
I
Robbie
think they
is-
did a good job.
Yeah, they had to really kind of tone her down
And then, I forget the name of the actress who played her mom.
I can't think of her name either.
She
won the award for best supporting actress, right?
Yeah.
That year.
Yeah. I'm drawing a
can't think of her
blank.
name.
So whoever she
did
is,
a great job.
She did a phenomenal job. And it was at Kobo. I just looked it up.
Yeah.
So, the acting in it was great, and her mom was such a terrible person, and I didn't hate Tanya Harding in this movie. Actually, I know you're like, oh, I can't watch things that make me sad. But
right, you don't,
Well,
you
just
don't,
awful
you
people.
don't necessarily hate her in this movie, and they leave it up for, I mean, they leave it up for debate whether she knew about it or not.
Did you guys see her home videos?
I did, and those were
not
those
the
were
best.
not
I
good.
never saw that.
I was
Yeah.
really hoping
Don't-
that she's an in-shape figure skater, and that's not what I got.
Allison Janney is the mom. Allison Janney.
Yes.
No, I just have no interest.
For some
in
reason, I
seeing
had
this
a
movie.
craving to eat fried eggs after.
I'm not going to ask. All right. What was that? Number 5 on your list? Is that applause?
Yeah, that was terrible. Applause.
That sounds like a car starting.
No, that was the egg cooking in the frying pan.
That's what. Was that your top 5?
That was my top 5.
All right. I'm going to go quickly through my next 5. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this movie. It came out in 1991. It's called Bugsy. You guys familiar with this?
I am. I have never seen it, but
stars Warren Beatty as Bugsy Siegel. Don't call him Bugsy though, because it gets him really angry. Annette Bening as his love interest actress. It's basically about the story of Bugsy Siegel coming out to L.A., getting wrapped up in the film world and hanging out with the actors and actresses of that time period and becoming part of that world. And then wanting to build the Flamingo Hotel in Las Vegas. And he's part of the reason why Las Vegas is Las Vegas. So he went out there. He got the mob to invest in his hotel. He went way behind schedule, way over budget. And when they opened the casino, Las Vegas had one of the worst rainstorms in its history. No one showed up. And because of all that, Bugsy went back to L.A., was hanging out in his, I think it might have been his girlfriend's home, Virginia Hill, and got shot in the face by people shooting through the window and killed him because of what had happened with the Flamingo. Eventually, the Flamingo did turn a profit, became a huge success, and Las Vegas was changed forever. And it all started with Bugsy. And believe it or not, this movie was nominated for, 8 Oscars, including, it was nominated for Best Picture, but it lost to Silence of the Lambs. It did win 2 Oscars for art direction and costume design. But it is a really, really good movie about that time period. Either one of you, you guys didn't see it?
No,
not that I remember.
All right, so that's number 6 on my list. Number 7, came out in 2009, Public Enemies. You guys familiar with Public Enemies? Not about the rap group. I
could have guessed that
one. Stars Johnny Depp,
right? Yeah.
as John Dillinger, Christian Bale as Melvin Purvis, and it's set in the 1930s. And one of the things I love about this movie is wherever possible, they tried to film the scenes in the movie in the actual historic locations, including the alley next to the Biograph Theater where Dillinger was gunned down by the law. They filmed it in the same location. And I think that's really cool. Really enjoyed this movie. I don't think it was a hit by any means, but I thought it was one of Johnny Depp's best performances. It was
whoa.
Well, the reason I say that is that people have been criticizing Johnny Depp for being over the top in a lot of his roles, playing these really crazy characters like in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and Lone Ranger and all that stuff. In this movie, he just kind of plays it straight. He's very charming, very likable as John Dillinger, and I think it's very underrated and one of my favorite Johnny Depp movies. Next up, I think you guys will have to agree. I got to play a clip from this. Too bad Richie Rollins isn't here for this.
Show up on time. Try not to fall asleep, everybody.
Am I hearing an accent?
Oh, no. What do you mean?
How old are you?
Oh, wow, Greg age.
You're 19? Yeah. I just turned 14.
Wow, happy birthday. This is my movie, and this is my life. Okay, action. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
But it doesn't work if you're looking at the camera.
Really? I do this whole movie for you, Greg. You are tearing me apart, Lisa.
I enjoy The Disaster Artist 10 times more than I enjoyed The Room. The Room, as fun as it is to see it in a group experience, it's a terrible movie. It's a painful movie to sit through. And when you saw it for the first time, when I dragged you to the theater to see it, I realized as I was watching the movie, this is painful. This is hard to watch.
It is, but it's hilarious.
Yeah, I know. But
I didn't feel it was painful at all.
I just don't ever want to sit through it
But
again.
I knew that it was a bad movie going in,
Right.
so
Yeah,
that helps.
I guess if you didn't know that going in, you might be shocked.
But watching Disaster Artist tell the story, and that was the question I had after seeing The Room for the first time. How did this movie get made? And I'm so glad that The Disaster Artist did its best to try and explain how The Room got made. And James Franco was amazing as Tommy Wiseau. He won a Golden Globe, but wasn't even nominated for an Oscar. I think he should have been nominated. Dave Franco, his brother, is Greg. It was nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay. That was the only Oscar it was nominated for. I loved The Disaster Artist. I thought it was laugh out loud funny. Tommy Wiseau was likable in this movie and
Tommy
enormously entertaining. What's that?
Oh, you mean him playing Tommy Wiseau?
Yeah, like the character,
Yeah,
like
okay.
you develop this kind of a sympathy for the Tommy Wiseau character.
The only thing is, I mean, if we're talking about biopics, it doesn't really reveal. I mean, it reveals that time period,
Right.
But it still doesn't really reveal where Tommy Wiseau came from.
Oh, I know, and
how
that's
he got all the
that will
money
always
and,
be a
like-
mystery. I don't know if those questions will ever be answered, but for me, a definition of a biopic is depicting a real life character in a monumental situation, a historic situation, and the making of The Room is definitely a historical situation.
Yeah, that's true.
Ryan, I know we've discussed The Disaster Artist in the past on this podcast, but your thoughts?
I love this movie. And it's on my list as well. I thought the acting was phenomenal. I thought it was cool to see both the Franco boys, bounce off each other. Great cast. It was funny. The clip you just played, where he's like, "Happy birthday!" Like, I that struck me. I wasn't ready for it when I watched it in the theater, and I cracked up. I think it was a big mistake that it wasn't Oscar nominated for more things, and I know that could be because of the Me Too stuff going on at the time, but
right.
I thought the performance was great, and the only thing I don't like about it is that Richie Rollins talks like it for.
Well, be grateful he's not here right now because that would
for the next
that would
month
trigger him.
my
yeah.
text messages would be like, "Lisa, tearing me apart," and he sells his own underwear, so.
I also love the
That's good, too.
authenticity of The Disaster Artist when they play the scenes from The Room and The Disaster Artist side by side, how the beats are right on the money and they just painstakingly recreated the movie. It was just fantastic.
Yeah. I didn't think about that when I was compiling my list, but yeah, I it might have made my top 10 if I would have thought about it. I did like it, and I don't remember which one I saw first. I can't remember if I saw The Room before I saw The Disaster Artist or vice versa. But either one, I enjoy both of those movies.
I saw Disaster Artist first, and I had no background of The Room. I didn't know what I was watching. I just knew that people were going on and on and on about it.
Well, that's the thing. If you see The Room first, I remember when I saw The Disaster Artist, the people in the theater with me would start laughing at things because they had seen The Room. Like, oh, here comes the high doggy scene or whatever.
Yeah.
And so people were laughing before things happened, which was funny. All right, the last two movies on my list, I'm not going to go into them too deeply because we've discussed the heck out of them over the last several podcasts. Bohemian Rhapsody, I think Rami Malek did an amazing job as Freddie Mercury. I think he has a good shot at winning Best Actor. And then Green Book, based on actual events portrayed by Viggo Mortensen and Mahershala Ali. Great movie, and after seeing it, I think it's one of the best movies I've ever seen that depicted real life, actual events between living and breathing people. Brian, you don't necessarily have to get into it, but
yeah, no, I left them off my list just because we've talked about them so much recently. But they are both great movies, and they probably do deserve to be on the list. But just to keep it, there's other awesome movies that I just would rather talk about at this point.
Also wanted to throw out a quick nomination, kind of not in my top 10. This was a TV movie that came out in 1979. Surprisingly, there have not been a lot of theatrical movies about the life and career of Elvis Presley, and I'm surprised that that hasn't happened. You'd think there'd be more movies about Elvis Presley. But there was a TV movie that came out in 1979 starring Kurt Russell, and I remember as a kid, I was about 12 years old when this came out. I remember thinking, Kurt Russell is Elvis? Like, I had a hard time buying it. But once I started watching the movie, I like got completely lost in it. I thought Kurt Russell was an amazing Elvis Presley, and he played a young Elvis Presley in the 50s all the way up to the jumpsuit Elvis in the 70s, and he was absolutely incredible. And I'm surprised this movie wasn't a theatrical release. It was that good. And a little side note, directed by John Carpenter. He directed this Elvis biopic on TV. Now, the movie did get released in theaters overseas. I guess a lot of TV movies that aired on television here in the U.S. were released overseas to theaters. Now, Kurt Russell didn't do any of the singing. All of the singing was done by Ronnie McDowell, who was an Elvis sound-alike and had a big hit after Elvis died called The King Is Gone. And so he did all the singing in the movie. So
I've never seen that, but my favorite Elvis biopic is Bubba Hotep.
I'm sure based on actual events. Ryan,
JFK is in that as well.
Your bottom five.
I don't necessarily like to call them the bottom five, but the next five, I got The Social Network.
Another movie about a bunch of a-holes.
That's
man.
what I have as my number 6.
Every character in that movie is an a-hole.
Every character?
Yes.
I don't think
yes. So. I remember. I mean, I'm not. Again,
what
I'm
did
not
Brenda
saying
Song do?
I'm not saying it's
a
bad
she
movie.
Set stuff on fire. That's right.
But they were all thoroughly unlikable. And now what's his name?
Zuckerberg.
Zuckerberg is just like such a hated figure in the world right now. Like with all the Facebook shenanigans.
But everybody
and all
still
that
loves
stuff,
his Facebook, don't they?
The Facebook.
I could never.
Yes, the Facebook.
I couldn't get. I could not get out of Facebook because I feel like I'd be out of the loop. But
right.
But yeah,
this movie had everything. It had Justin Timberlake. It had fire. It had backstabbing.
Armie Hammer playing 2 different roles.
It had a business card that says "I'm CEO, bitch." No, I really like. I mean, I like it because it tells the story. It's entertaining. I don't necessarily need to like the characters. I like to hear the story. I like to know the history of things. Even, I mean, take it with a grain of salt, of course. But
no, I'm glad I saw it, and yeah, I was fascinated to see how Facebook came about. But I remember as the credits rolled, I'm like, wow, there wasn't one single likable character in that movie.
The whatever the hell their name was, Von Winkle twins or whatever.
Yeah.
How are they hateable?
I don't remember, but Justin Timberlake's character was an a-hole.
Justin Timberlake was playing the Napster dude, wasn't he?
Man.
Yeah, they were all a-holes.
How was he? I was surprised when I looked this up, though, that it came out in 2010, because I think I'd only been on Facebook like maybe a year at that point.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. 2008, 2009. I don't think probably 2009. So,
yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that was my number 6, too. But
all right.
Go ahead.
Good pick. Then I got, again, no particular order. I got Bloodsport.
That's based on a true story?
Yeah.
The Jean-Claude Van Damme
Frank
movie?
Dukes, that's a true story.
I did not know that.
You did not know that? You do now. A movie that I've mentioned before, if it's ever on like HBO or anything, that I just leave it on, and that's Moneyball. I thought Moneyball was a really awesome story, and like just a kind of chill movie, no like climatic thing. It's just kind of level and fun to watch.
I don't enjoy movies about math. Next.
So hard to please with this guy. You guys suck balls. Another movie that left me kind of upset at the end, but a really good movie was American Sniper with Jamie Kennedy.
Yes,
that's for you, Tim.
Yeah, I know, and unfortunately, I have never seen that one.
I had no interest in seeing it. Shockingly to me, it was the highest grossing movie of the year.
It was a great movie.
I just had no interest in seeing a story about that particular individual.
I don't know why we're friends. I also got on here Ray. Thought that was a great biopic.
That's one that's hanging over my head like the sword of Damocles. I have been meaning to see this movie. Have not seen it. I'm angry at myself for not seeing it. So next time I'm at Second and Charles, I'm going to look to see if they have Ray. I will buy it and I will watch it during this cold spell that we're experiencing.
It's going to be 60 or 45 like Saturday.
Yeah, I'll probably be at the beach that day. But.
Yeah. What did I miss?
Ray.
Got Ray. People versus Larry Flint.
Okay.
Thought that was a really good. Ed Norton is an amazing actor.
Woody
Harrelson did a great job. Even Courtney Love, who I really can't stand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I thought she did a phenomenal job.
That kind of legitimized her. Like she was kind of a joke almost up till that point, and then she showed her acting chops.
Yeah.
I disagree. She was actually in Sid and Nancy, and she did a good job, and she got critical acclaim for that, too.
And she was good in Man on the Moon. So I guess I'm a fan of The Love Hole.
Yeah. She's a better actress than she is a singer.
Very true. Very true. And then just a movie that could be on the top of anybody's list, but again, I've said it before on podcasts. It's a movie that I've seen once, maybe twice, never have to see it again, but a great, great movie, and that's Schindler's List.
Yeah, as I was researching the topic, that of course that movie comes up at the top of most people's lists, and I agree. It's just a great, great movie. It's just so hard to watch. It's so painful. I watched it, and it really affected me, and I can't subject myself to that. I can't sit down and experience those emotions again. So even though I agree it's a great movie, it deserves all the accolades it got, I can't put it on my top 10 only because it's such a difficult movie to watch.
Absolutely.
Made out the whole time, so missed it.
You made out during Schindler's List.
Yes.
Your guys' date movies and my date movies are completely different.
All right. I mentioned number 6, The Social Network. Are you done?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Social Network, number 6. Number 7, The Elephant Man, about John Merrick.
That's a
directed
good
by
one.
David Lynch.
Yeah.
Number 8, The Doors, 1991.
Never saw that. That's on my to see list too. Man.
Really?
I'm not a huge fan of the Doors music. Same reason I haven't seen Compton.
If you watch this movie, that
not the same reason. Liar.
Yes, it is.
If
It's
you
exactly the
watch,
same
if you
reason.
watch this movie, that might change your mind because I wasn't until I saw this movie.
Yeah. No, I've heard rave reviews about Val Kilmer's performance, and so this is on my to-do list. So I will pick it up when I pick up Ray.
My number 9, and that was
Straight Outta Compton.
This is what my quote was from in the beginning: "Road to Wellville," about Harvey Kellogg, the founder of Kellogg's. Very loosely based, I believe. And my number 10 was Bohemian Rhapsody as well.
There you go. All right. Any honorable mentions, or is that it? You got everything?
That was it. I only
checked
came
out?
up with 10. I would
All right.
probably put Raging Bull as an honorable mention.
Now who brought up Rocky? Someone brought up Rocky, and I'm like,
Richie Rollins.
now that's not based on a real person, right? I mean, that's a fictional character.
It
right?
is, but it's
It
very,
is.
very, very
loosely.
I mean, I guess
based.
Sylvester Stallone, I think, wrote the movie because he had heard about a similar character, but I don't know
Right.
if you can call Rocky a biopic.
I wouldn't.
I don't think. No, I don't
Especially
think you
because
could,
there's 6 of them.
Right, exactly. All true to life. And there's supposed to be some great biopics coming out this year. There's a Mr. Rogers biopic. I don't know if that's coming out this year or next year,
It's
but
this
Tom
year.
Hanks
this year.
as
This
Mr. Rogers. That's on my must-see list. I know.
There's actually a Rocky, the actual story of the guy that Rocky,
right.
that's actually coming out
All right.
this year.
And then there was the Elton John Rocket Man movie coming out. So bunch of
forward to that.
biopics coming out this year and next year. And I'll be all excited to see those. Any final thoughts, guys?
No.
On that note,
No.
Thanks for listening to Movies for Dumb Guys. We'll see you next time.
Just waiting.
Trying to listen.
Captain King.
Captain King.